All right. This is Caleb Jones, and this is the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast. In the flesh. I again apologize for the lower quality, the lower audio quality. I am doing this while in transit. So, many years ago, back in the early to mid 2000s, as I always do, I read a lot of economic data and looked at a lot of economic indicators. And we were going through kind of a housing boom at that time. And I said at the time, this does not look good. We are headed for a major economic catastrophe here. Not only because of the unusually white-hot real estate market and all that mortgage stuff that was going on back then, but also because I knew that the baby boomers would start retiring in the next decade, which means they'd basically be forced to liquidate a lot of their stock portfolios because of requirements for retirement systems in the United States, like 401ks, IRAs, things like that. And I said, okay, we are headed for a big economic crash, and we are headed for this crash in 2012. That was the year I assigned to my prediction, 2012, and there were a number of economic factors that I used for that, but that was my best guess. I said, okay, 2012, the world's going to come to an end, so I better get ready and get prepared. While everyone else is freaking out, enjoying themselves, this wonderful booming economy back in 2003, 2004, 2005, whenever that was, I said, I need to get ready for this catastrophe. So I did. I put some gold away. I did some other things. I didn't prepare as ardently as I should have, but I did. And as you may already know, I was right and I was wrong. So we did have an economic catastrophe just as I predicted. As a matter of fact, it was almost to the T, what I expected to happen happened. The problem is, it came in 2008. I was 4 years off. It came 4 years early. It came the end of 2008. So I didn't have enough time. My timing was off, so I wasn't 100% prepared. Also, in the middle of all that, I was going through a divorce in 2008. Now, I actually separated in 2007, but the actual legal side of the divorce and the logistical side of the divorce took about 2 years. Most of that was my fault. So I was right in the middle of a divorce when this all happened, trying to set up a new life and figure out finances and legal stuff, and it was a pain in the ass. It was bad. So when this economic recession crash hit, I was completely unprepared. And it was not fun economically. It had a rough year or two. It was not very fun at all. And I was hard on myself. It was a double whammy for me emotionally because I knew this problem was coming and I still wasn't prepared. I was off by 4 years and it happened right in the middle of me going through some other crisis that I was also not prepared for. So that was a triple whammy. I was not prepared. Now in some logistics I was. I'll explain that in a second. But I was not prepared to get divorced. And I should have been. I should have been 100% prepared for the very likely probability of getting divorced. As I keep saying, we have around a 76% divorce rate in the Western world for people who actually get married. And I was aware of those figures back then it wasn't as bad as 76%, it's gotten worse, but I was aware of a lot of these figures back then, and I should have been prepared for that, and I wasn't. Now, I was to a degree. When I saw the writing on the wall in my marriage, I did start preparing. I've talked about this before. I started buying gold and shoving away in a secret location outside of my house. I started hoarding cash a little bit. I made some preparations, but they were preparations that I was making, kind of in a rush within the last year of the marriage. These are things that should have been in place when I got married. So I was able to prepare for certain things, but I did it in a very half-assed manner. And that is my entire point, is that what most people do, what most Westerners do, I should say, Asians are much better at this. What most Westerners do is when times are good, they just enjoy the good times. They don't do anything. They don't prepare for shit. They assume, at least subconsciously or emotionally, that the current conditions in their logistical life, in their financial life, and in their woman life are just going to stay the same forever. Everything is going to be great forever. So they don't save. They don't have disaster plans. They don't make any contingency plans. They don't make any, they have no sources of redundancy in these systems. And again, I'm including in your woman life. So when a guy is in love in the middle of NRE, that means new relationship energy. That is the wonderful feeling of bliss that you have when you're in a relatively new relationship. usually under 6 to 8 months or so. When you're in the throes of this great relationship, this great girlfriend, this great woman you're dating, or this great new wife you got, you don't consider at all the reality that that woman is going to leave. And she's going to leave you, and she's going to leave you when you're not expecting it. And so you don't say, okay, wait a second, I better have another woman and maybe a backup to her on rotation so that when this woman leaves me, I'm going to be covered and I'm going to be okay. Right now, the state of the world is in a state of crisis, at least in most parts of the Western world, certainly in the United States. We have the coronavirus pandemic. We have insane governments doing all kinds of insane lockdowns all over the world. We've got protests all over the United States. I call them protests, they're really riots all over the United States. We have all kinds of problems. And guys all over in my audience are complaining that they're having financial problems. They can't pay their bills. They're complaining they can't get laid. They can't meet any girls because no one will meet up with them because these crises, and on and on and on and on. What is that an indication of? That is an indication, if you're having any of these problems, that you did not prepare for these things when times were good. As I have said many times, and I'm proud to say it, and I'm happy to say it again, I have had literally zero problems throughout this entire time. Financially, I've been just fine. In my businesses, I've been just fine. Logistically, I've been just fine. Sexually, I've been just fine. Matter of fact, my sex life has actually improved in some ways. And even in aspects of my businesses have improved in some ways. Now, why is that? Why is that the case? Is it because I'm some kind of super genius? I'm just like this Albert Einstein super genius who could predict with pinpoint accuracy and... No, I'm not. I'm not bad, but I am not a genius. I'm a fucking moron. I do things wrong all the time, and I will, I'm sure, for the rest of my life. Is it because I am magically lucky? I'm just really lucky? Am I just, have this Midas touch and I live this charmed, perfect life? Everything just works out for me? I wish! Holy shit! Now, there are some people out in the world who think that's true of me, that I'm just lucky when it comes to my business success or woman's success or winning at blackjack. I'm just this magically lucky person. So, no, that is not the case. I am not magically lucky. That would be nice. I wish that were the case. That is not the case. I promise you that. So, why is it then? What's the explanation? The explanation is very simple. It is because when times were good, I spent a lot of time and effort. I focused on it as a project to make sure that the next time there were challenges in the world, in the economy, what have you, I would be okay. When the collapse of 2008 came along, I made a pact with myself. I said, I will never let this happen to me ever again. I'm going to get my shit together so that the next time this occurs, the next time I have a challenge where there's a horrible economy or other things. So around that time, I saw things like hurricanes hitting parts of the Southeast, Georgia, Florida, Hurricane Katrina. I saw people go through those problems. I saw people with natural disasters all over the world, places in Thailand, the nuclear meltdown of Japan, all these things. I saw all these things. I said, okay, these are things that are almost guaranteed to happen at some point in my life. They are well above the 2% rule, so I have to account for them. I can't control them, so I can control my conditions. So I made sure that the next time there would be a problem, I'd be prepared. Something else that I did that was somewhat significant is I said I am no longer going to try to predict when the problems occur, because clearly I'm not good at it. Now, in my defense, no one else is very good at it. Every time someone predicts these problems with accuracy, Caleb, the United States is going to collapse next February. Watch, Caleb, it's going to happen. They're always wrong. Almost 100% of the time these people are wrong. And I learned that very quick, including some guys I know and like. Guys who I look up to and guys who I respect. Oh yeah, by 2017, the United States is going to collapse or Europe is going to go under or whatever. And they're always wrong. So I learned very quickly to not put a time on it. I just said I need to get prepared as quickly as possible. It could happen when I think it might happen. It could happen 10 years after I think it could occur. It could occur several years earlier than I thought, which is what happened to me. I am no longer going to put a time on it. And if you have read my blogs, particularly the Caleb Jones blog, when I talk about macroeconomics and the state of economies all over the world and investing and things like that, I have repeatedly said over and over again, I cannot tell you when these things are going to happen. in terms of the collapse of the Western world or Europe collapsing or whatever. I don't put time frames on these because I don't know. There's no way to predict these things. And frankly, as I've said in my blogs, if you could predict these things, you would be a billionaire. You'd be a billionaire right now. If I could predict not only what would happen, which I'm pretty good at, but exactly when it was going to occur, which I'm bad at, and so is everyone else, I'd be a billionaire right now. So it's not possible. So I said, I know these problems are going to happen, major catastrophes that are outside of my control, so I have to prepare for them. I don't know when they're going to happen, so I better get to work as fast as humanly possible. So you do this in 3 ways in terms of being prepared, disaster preparedness. 1 is you need to prepare logistically. 2, you need to prepare financially. And 3, you need to prepare sexually. I did all 3, which is why when the coronavirus hit, I had no problems whatsoever. Everything was fine. Not just my money, but my whole life. It's very, very nice. And it really is. It has been very nice. It's been a very nice coronavirus experience for me. But anyway, first, logistically, I have an article at the Caleb Jones blog. If you Google Caleb Jones blog, disaster preparedness, you can find that article. And I go through a list of about, 10, 12, 13 things. Disaster preparedness for the alpha male 2.0. I go through all the different areas that you need to address. I'll give you some very simple examples. Number 1, I have 30 days of non-perishable food in my house. So if for some reason there's some kind of natural disaster or some kind of civil unrest, I'm covered for food for 30 days. By the way, I have ways of preparing that food even if I have no electricity. So I have all kinds of camping gear, little propane tanks. I have all that stuff ready to go. So even if I couldn't get food and I had no power for a month, I would be just fine. I'd be able to eat. And so would Pink Firefly, my wife. We'd be good to go. I'm not worried about that at all. So I don't worry about, oh my God, I got to rush to the Costco to get fucking toilet paper. By the way, I've had that. I mentioned that before too. I always have an excess 30-day supply of paper towels and toilet paper. So I don't just buy toilet paper when I'm getting low. I have a buffer of about a month's worth of toilet paper, and then I have another hunk of toilet paper that I'm actually using. So when I use up that front part and I get down to 30 days, then I go buy more toilet paper. So my wife and I did not have to suddenly rush to the store to get fucking toilet paper or paper towels. When COVID-19 hit, we were just fine. We had no problems at all. All those logistics. I also have little things like I have an entire year of bathroom supplies. So I don't just buy toothpaste when I run out. That's stupid. I have an entire year of toothpaste in a drawer in my bathroom. An entire year of hair products, soap, all that crap. I have a year of that stuff. So I don't have to worry about, oh no, I won't be able to brush my teeth because I have no toothbrushes. I have like a stack of toothbrushes. I'm good to go for a year. Very, very nice. Also, another example, I've talked about this in the blogs too, including that article, is that at all times, I have 14 days of water. And that's not just for drinking, that is also for bathing or washing, times 2 for both me and Pink Firefly. So if I literally had no running water, I would be fine for 14 days. Now, it would be very fun, but I'd be okay. Can you imagine the typical Westerner, typical European, Canadian, American, and let's say you don't have water for, forget 14 days, 2 days. If the typical Westerner didn't have water for 2 days, they'd be screaming. They'd be rioting in the streets. They'd be freaking the fuck out. I can go 14 days. No problem. So I've went through my entire life and I've figured out all the logistics that I needed to cover in cases of emergencies. Pandemics, natural disasters. By the way, those are the 2 big ones. Pandemics, natural disasters are the ones that I'm more concerned about. I do not think there will be a civil war. I don't think there will be a nuclear bomb that goes off in my city. That's 2% shit. I'm not worried about that. But what is not 2% are things like natural disasters, tsunamis, earthquakes, hurricanes, civil unrest. Not a civil war, but definitely a civil unrest. I've talked about how that's definitely going to happen, and I was right. So things like that, all those things. I'm prepared for all that stuff. Logistically. Now, next one, financially. 2 things. When I say financial preparedness, that really means 2 things. Number 1, you pay off all your debt. And I've talked about that a million times. The Alpha Male 2.0 is debt-free. Debt-free. No debt. Yes, there are 1 or 2 rare, unusual exceptions to the rule that everyone likes to point out. When I say no debt, those are the 1 or 2 rare exceptions to the rule that do not apply to most humans. no debt. I have no debt. When you have no debt, when you have a sudden drop in income outside of your control, you're much more relaxed about it. When you have a lot of debt and now you can't pay all your debt bills, you're fucked. And I had that. I had massive debt when I was a young man. It was terrible. Today I have no debt. I sleep very well. So that means if you have debt, you need to pay off your fucking debt. That's number one. Number two, emergency savings. I've talked about this before. You need, in my strong opinion, and this is part of the Alpha Male 2.0 financial structure, 6 to 12 months of liquid savings of your bills, your minimum bills you need to pay per month, your rent, your groceries, your car insurance, your minimum bills you need to pay, whatever that number is, figure that out, multiply it by 6 or 12, or anywhere between that. Usually mine runs about 8, I have about 8 months of emergency savings stocked away. So that means I've got 8 months. All 3 of my companies could stop earning income tomorrow. Now, that'll never happen. All 3 of them at the same time? No. But let's say they did, Let's say all my clients from my consulting practice fired me at the same time because of recession. The internet suddenly vanished off the face of the earth, so now I can't make money online with Black Dragon stuff. And computer consulting, I don't know, they stopped doing computer consulting, I guess. So I can't sell those services anymore. All right, fine. Let's say all that happened. I'd have 8 months to figure it out. 8 months. Instead of being in a fucking panic mode like most normal people, something like 74% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Canadians and Europeans aren't that much better. That means they literally have no money in savings. They suddenly have a disruption in their income and their whole lives go into a fucking tailspin. I don't have that problem. I have literally 8 months. I have more than 8 months because I have investments on top of that. I have assets I could liquidate, etc. I wouldn't need 8 months because I'd be making money very quickly anyway. I've talked about that. But anyway, my point is you have 0 debt and you have 6 to 12 months of cash in some kind of savings mechanism. That could be cash in your safe, in your house. That could be cash in someone else's house in a safe that they don't know the combination to. It could be a bank account, although I don't like those. It could be a money market account. Those are fine. And as I've talked about before, if you have that much money, you'll probably have several $1,000s in there. My strong recommendation, particularly if you are European or an American, so you're dealing with the US dollar or the euro, you put anywhere from 30 to 50% of that as gold coins. And that is an insurance policy on your cash to make sure that if there's a state of hyperinflation or some kind of negative government manipulation on your money, which is very, very likely, particularly in the United States and Europe too, you're covered. So if your cash all of a sudden drops in value, gold takes care of you. You need that. You need to cover it. Also, basics of the Alpha Male 2.0 business structure. I talk about having 2 to 4 small companies that have nothing to do with each other, selling completely different things to completely different people. If you have that, it's very hard to suddenly lose all your money, to lose all your income. Worst case scenario, if you have 3 companies like I do, 3 small businesses, one of your businesses maybe goes out of business, the other 2 keep you afloat. It's great. So if you add all that up, I've got multiple businesses with multiple income streams. I have about 14 different income streams from 3 different companies with 8 months of emergency savings with 0 debt. I am literally one of the most financially stable, financially secure men in the entire world who is not a multi-billionaire, who is not super rich. That's what you can pull off if you put your mind to it. These are the structures I put in place as of 2008 because I didn't want to go through that problem again. The third thing you need to address is sexual security. What the fuck does that mean? You should see my email and all the comments on my social media and blogs with all these guys bitching and moaning that they can't get laid because women won't see them. You know what? If you already had 2 or 3 FBs or 1 or 2 MLTRs on rotation when this happened, when this began, you wouldn't have that problem because they would keep seeing you. That's how this works. All of the women who I had on rotation in February, March of this year when this all started are still seeing me today on a weekly basis. I have no problems because I put in the roster. I talk about having a roster of women you're regularly seeing. That includes active women that you're regularly seeing, and that includes women that you're pulling from the roster and kind of resurrecting back into your life. These women do not require you to do any sort of game. You don't have to go on Tinder. You don't have to go on OkCupid. You don't have to go do day game or night game. These are just women that come who either are already in your sex life or come right back with a text or 2. It's nice. And as you probably know, as Black Dragon, over the past 10, 11 years, I have built up my roster. So now I am good to go sexually. I do not have to worry about not getting laid. Even if I lived alone. Well, Caleb, it's easy for you to say you live with Pink Firefly. That's new in my life as of just the last few years. So, no. If I lived alone, same deal. I would still be seeing my FBs. I might have an MLTR or two if I lived alone. It wouldn't change. You don't have to live with anybody to make sure you're covered. Some guys imply that. I've seen guys say that on the internet. Well, the only way to make sure is to live with a woman. Nope. Wrong. If I didn't live with anyone, I promise you 100% I would be getting laid just as often without living with anybody because I'd have FBs and MLTRs already in place, already on rotation. Get that stuff in place. You have all my resources, obviously, the Black Dragon blog, my books and courses. Ignorance is not an excuse if you are listening to this podcast. It's all at calebjones.com. You know what to do. Now you just need to do it. So, if you have suffered any of these logistical, financial, or sexual problems during this state of crisis, I know for a fact that most likely, unless your scenario is highly unusual, which I doubt, you did not prepare when things were good. When everything was fine and there was no pandemic and women were happy to meet up with you, you didn't set up any rotating FBs or MLTRs. You didn't pay off your debts. You didn't put away money for emergency savings. You didn't build location independent, recurring, high margin little businesses, Alpha 2.0 businesses. You didn't do these things. So guess what that means now? You need to start building these structures now. And I realize right now, in the middle of this chaos, it might be a little more difficult. A little, not much, a little. There are guys getting laid now. There are guys meeting new women now. There are guys building their businesses now. This is actually a great time to build an Alpha 2.0 business if you niche correctly. It's a wonderful time to do it. I've done very well. But you need to start building these structures now so that the next time we have a problem, and we will, this is not the last time we're going to have a serious economic recession. This is not the last pandemic we're going to have. We're going to have more of these. Matter of fact, they may become a regular occurrence in our lives. This is not the last time, in the Western world anyway, where we are going to experience massive civil unrest, where entire cities are shut down and shit like that. As the West continues to collapse, this is going to happen over and over and over and over again with increasing regularity, as I've already talked about. You need to make sure that the next time these things happen, you're like me. You're like, no big deal. Who cares? I don't even care. I haven't even noticed the difference. Literally, in my life, my day-to-day logistical life, my financial life, and my sex life, I have literally not noticed any difference. I just hear about it in the outside world from all the normal non-alpha male 2.0s who didn't prepare for these things. So now, hopefully, these problems will serve as a wake-up call for you, a slap in your face that you needed to say, holy shit, I need to get my shit together. I need to have disaster preparedness in my home. I need to pay off my debt and get some emergency savings. I need to build Alpha 2.0 income. I need FBs and MLTRs on rotation. And that way, the next time this happens, and it's going to happen again much sooner than you think, you'll be like, no big deal. Cool. Whatever. Believe me, it's nice. I feel sad for people. I feel sorry for people. I really do. Kind of. A part of me is like, dumbass, you didn't prepare. So there's a big part of me that says that. But there's a nice part of me. I'm a nice person. There's a nice part of me that says, man, that sucks. I wish these people didn't have to go through this. I wish they didn't. It's really sad. But it's a preventable problem. So get that done. If you want help building these structures, join smic.com. We have over 80 audio trainings there. Plus, you can work with me personally on helping you build these structures in your life. I will see you very soon. Make sure you do this. Don't just nod your head and go, wow, what a good podcast, and then move on and go back to your life. Do these things. See you soon. Bye.